Ed's missed out last week. Will he be pushing for selection at training?
Yeah, I would have thought so. He's got to train and get through training, but he'll definitely be putting his name up there. He's done a good job in the last sort of 5 or 6 days to get his body right, and it wasn't a risk we were willing to take last week. So whether he comes in or not, it's a tough team to break into, so we'll see how training goes.
Is it a bit of a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it at the moment, how well you're playing?
Yeah, it is. There's a bit of that. Possession's 9/10 of the law, and we want to keep performing as a team. And it's interesting because we ask our guys to play really specific roles, and not all of those roles necessarily impact from a kicks, marks, and handballs. And so, occasionally we can rate players' games on how many times they touch the ball. We don't do that as a footy club. When we get a result like we do on the weekend, there's 23 players that are playing their role. So, but again, we're always looking at what we need to do medium and longer term as well, locking in on the game we're playing as players, but from a coaching point of view, what do we think we need going to the latter part of this season?
Speaking of specific roles, can you tell us which team that we're in Max will play?
Yeah, he was great, wasn't he? I mean, the team were great, the way they positioned him and helped him out, and we went in with a respect for the way Vlastuin had played his footy and the impact he'd had, especially against us over the years. Max went down there for that reason and was able to hit the scoreboard, off the back of some really good team efforts. That's a bonus on top of the job we wanted him to do. It'll be one that we'll keep an eye on because there's a lot of dangerous halfbacks in the game. It's become really that position now that a lot of teams have played a very attacking player that's good with the footy in hand. And so we'll have a look at that going forward. We're really pleased with the result. Ben Keys has done it for us in the past. Lockie Murphy's done it this year. So there are other players that can do it, but we wanted to experiment a bit with it this week, and Max did a great job.
How much did he love it, Nixie? I'm sure he had a bit of a high after kicking a couple of goals and might have stay down there.
Well, it's amazing what it does for the group. When it's not necessarily his role to kick goals, although I guess that's getting the job done, in a different way. But it gives the group some real energy. When you have that enthusiasm and enjoyment from a young lad, who doesn't kick a lot of goals. He has knocked one through this year prior to that, but from half back. So, yeah, it's another part that we look at. How do we bring energy in what is a long season? And we're able to do that on the weekend. Luck's a fortune. He was in the right spot where he should have been when he needed to be.
Do you see his future as someone that can be a little bit more versatile than he has been?
I think that's what we're looking at longer term is how do we give him a couple more strings for his bow. That he does a fantastic job for us behind the ball, whether that's deep in a back pocket or whether he's playing on a high half, dangerous high half forward. He's shown us he can do that, and he's got a lot of discipline to his game. We're going to continue to see how we grow as a group and as a team and what roles he will play within that. But we're reasonably confident, even if it was an on-ball role that we needed at a point, he could go and do that. Giving us a lot more flexibility as a team is really important. And we showed that on the weekend that he can play forward of the footy, which is great.
How much joy did it give you seeing Max and Dan Curtin as well show their skill, obviously, as proud of the young boys and promise for the future?
Yeah, there are a few moments where I had a big smile on my face in the box, just watching our guys go to work. Dan continues to develop, continues to sort of, each week surprise us with another step. Wrong word, because I used surprise last time. We're not surprised. He's a great young footballer, but he's developing quickly and learning the game quickly. Loves team. If you watch off screen when other guys are kicking goals, he's celebrating more than any. He brings an enthusiasm that I was talking about, with Max. So it's really pleasing to see. And then there was a passage where he knocked one into Riley Thilthorpe in the forward line, and that was, from a coach's point of view, a pretty special moment.
He's well and truly in the rising star conversation now. How deserving do you think you'd be of an accolade like that?
I'm not sure that's on his mind at the moment. He'd be deserving. There's a lot of other great young players in the game as well that are coming through in their first years and early parts of their career. So, but that'd be a great individual accolade. But I can tell you, he's not thinking about that at all. That's the special part about Dan. He's all for team. He's just enjoying playing footy at the moment, and he was a high draft pick for a reason. He's able to show that at this point.
How much-
Speaking of individual accolades, how impressive have you been with Josh Worrell this season? He was magnificent last year before he got injured, but if he keeps his form going, he could be in the All-Australian category of defenders.
Yeah, I don't like you guys keep going down this individual part. We're not playing tennis, you blokes. Yeah, he's been great. He's continually worked on his game. He'd be the first one to stand up if you interviewed him and talk about how he was earlier in his career. And we had our challenges, Josh and I, and we worked our way through them, as well as some of the coaches. And he's done a great job to work on his off-field as far as prepping himself in the breaks, coming back in really good condition. So now he's fit. There's no question on that. He can go all game, and he's got the talent to then be able to perform for 120 minutes. And he's getting reward for that hard work. But it's not just Josh. It's pressure on the footy. It's the way our forwards are fighting. It's our midfielders that are getting in great positions that allow him to do what he's doing. But he's playing at a high level.
Nixie, where's Nick Murray at in his training day?
He was in my office 5 minutes ago. We were having a chat. He's feeling great. So he felt the weekend was the best he's felt, and I'm sure each week as they go by, he's going to feel better and better. But just from a body point of view, that's the most important part at the moment. We're able to sit down and just talk through. There will be no rush around Nick Murray coming back in at AFL level until we feel and he feels confident that the speed of the game, that he'll be ready for that. He was great on the weekend, played in a really strong team performance. The most important part of that was he felt great. So he felt balanced, he felt strong, he felt his knee was the best it's been. And so we'll continue to work through that, but there will be no rush.
So this
How much
is
we
obviously a big step up from sample to the AFL. Is he still a yard or two off AFL level?
I don't want to put it that way, because he may be ready at the moment. He might be playing at the level. We don't know that, but if you talk about a risk reward, we won't be taking the risk to fast track that. It'll be one that we're very deliberate with. It won't be this week, I can give you that much now, but it may be the week after. It depends on how he goes this coming weekend. It'll be one we won't have a time frame on. We'll just continue to talk through it, Nick and the high performance group and myself, and we'll come to a decision on the right week, hopefully.
Does the success and performance that you've been having make it easier to, I guess, take that time with him?
Oh, of course. I think when the team's performing, you don't feel rushed like, we need Nick Murray back in the side. We love what Nick brings to our group. We know he can play at the level. At AFL, he's shown that in the past. But yeah, at the moment, with our group performing the way they are, it does take the pressure off. Not from Nick's point of view. He's a competitor who wants to come and play and wants to play AFL. So it's just us balancing, I guess, the experience we've got in amongst our coaching group, their experiences across their journeys, and trying to put their heads on Nick's shoulders. He's pretty keen to play at the moment, I can tell you that.
Just shutting down Pickett the key to beating the Demons?
Well, it's one of them. I mean, there's a lot of talent and a lot of experience in that group, but he's there's no doubt his impact on games really moves the needle for the Demons. At the moment, he's playing some great footy, up around the footy as well, and we know how dangerous he can be forward of the ball. But I think it'd be a mistake to lock in on just one. Their leader there's not many better in Gorney, so we got our work cut out for us this weekend.
Just on the not rushing back, obviously helps too, and you've got someone like Butsy really solid back there at the moment. Have you seen how he's tracking?
Yeah, pretty low key, Butsy, until the weekend. He just goes out and gets his job done. He's a ruthless defender. There's no fuss, but he trains that. He trains on our forwards all pre-season and goes to work. So, yeah, really pleased with the way he's going. He understands what his weapons are and his strengths and areas he's got to work on, but he plays to those. And you talked about Worrell before. Butsy, there's no doubt. Jordan playing alongside Joshy Worrell makes Joshy better.
It's obviously a significant day for the club. The part some years ago, Phil Walsh. Footy's such a tight-knit community. The effect that he had on you, from what you're feeling inside the football club, everything regarding Phil Walsh.
Yeah, it had a huge effect on me, Walsh. I worked with Phil at Port Adelaide, and he was a massive influence on who I am as a person, who I am as a coach. he taught me so much in a short period of time. A number of years we coached together, and he was footy. He understood footy like no one else did, and probably gave me the best piece of advice that I've ever been, which was put family first. And so we've got that as part of one of our values, our key values. Is we understand. Footy's great. People love footy. It means so much to us. But there's always something bigger than footy, and that's what Walshy taught me, as well as a lot of other things.
You said getting the job done before. Some of that language is obviously still stuck. Keeps being used all these years later within the group.
Yeah, he had a lot of things, Walshy, that he brought to the game. If anyone you run into in footy, Walshy's run into him, and something stuck. He had a knack of being able to, you remembered what Walshy said, because he was so direct, so to the point. I just sat for 20 minutes ago with Tex, and we were just talking through some of the memories that we had from Walshy and the respect that both of us have for him.
Do you share some of those memories with you?
Some I can't. Some involve wrestling players, and at mid-50s or late 50s, wrestling with players in Dubai. And some are just around the discipline that he demanded of everyone that he worked with. There's been none better that I've worked with that just knew what it took to be a pro.
That day, I think everyone in footy still remembers where they were when they found out. How in that moment were you able to comprehend that as particularly someone that you knew so well that day?
Yeah, it was a hard one, but what it did was it brought us all back together. It brought remarkably 2 footy clubs together. It was a tough time for everyone, but it did, as footy clubs do. If there's a place to be, footy clubs are pretty good in that space. We get around each other and support each other.
You mentioned Tex before. Obviously, there's only a handful of players that remain that have played on the field. Is it something you've addressed as a group today, the 10 years on? Yeah,
we haven't yet. We were in the meeting and we're going to have a chat and to talk about it. Tex is going to actually address the group and share some of those stories. I think the boys will actually be in there now talking through that.
I'll just take you back to Jordan Butts. Do you expect him to be under a bit more scrutiny this week from the umpires, given the attention of last week?
Possibly. I think that's one of... We obviously work with our guys on, playing within the rules, and Jordan's an outstanding defender. And so, I spoke about it post-game. Part of what we do is try and frustrate the opposition. I thought we did a fantastic job with that on the weekend. No point do we talk about going outside the rules. I think it's just playing with a ruthless mindset. We don't want to be scored against, and it's an area we've been really strong in, over the last sort of 8 weeks. So we'll continue to play the way we play.
Just looking forward to Melbourne. Do you see any player that you specifically want Max to play that shutdown role again on?
Without giving too much away, there's a few. Petrarca's obviously a great player. You mentioned Cozzy. Bowie behind the ball's been really good off half back, so it'll just depend on how training goes today and then the balance of our group, and whether we stick with what we did last week. But it's not a decision we've locked in yet.
Obviously, Riley O'Brien's a big challenge against Max Gawn. How have you assessed his season? He seems to be in a pretty strong patch of form. Riley?
Yeah, he's in great form. Yeah, he's. I'd say he's playing some of his best footy. Back to when he won our BNF. He's got his work cut out for him this weekend. There's none. I don't think there's any better than Gawn. Respectfully for a lot of ruckmen in the competition. When a game's there to be won, Gawny will step up. He's a fantastic leader, and I think Rob loves that challenge. Rob's shown this year that he's able to, at worst, nullify his opponents, and in the last month or 6 weeks, he's actually gone even above that. So we're confident that he'll come in and play pretty hard. He knows the job's going to be a big one for him.
Is there any concern that his contract status is still up in the air? We're in July now? Or?
Yeah, I'll grab him today in a headlock out on the Oval and we'll have a chat through it. And no, we will keep working through that with Rob. It's not something we're focused on at the moment. I'm sure Rob's not focused on it either. It's something that will be looked after by others when it comes to the list management side of things. But I think that's the strength he's showing at the moment. He's just head down, focused on footy.
Do you expect other clubs though to come harder at him now? Or?
Yeah, the form he's in. I think that's an obvious one.